Yo, Thunderslice, and today's video is titled Son, Maintaining Ancestral Memory in a World of Universal Amnesia, right? And this is something I was thinking about a lot yesterday, in that, you know, the real difference between the people on the right and the left, right, of seeing us all as just being biological computers who are wards of the state versus a spark of divinity and imbued with soul and spirit and an end in and of itself, you know, because it is complete in and of itself. It has an entire universe within it. You know, that really comes down to how much we're connected to our family, not in really a direct superficial sense, right? In the direct superficial sense, it's of course very difficult to have connections with family, as, you know, many of them have gone completely insane. And, you know, literally people in our very close family who think that, who are in professional positions and make, you know, good money and live in a nice house and are, you know, productive members of society and lead organizations, they actually believe right now that we need to shut the entire country down for 1 year because of COVID. The entire country for an entire year. And these people think that that is a rational position. They think that that makes sense on some level. They are advocating it without any sense of irony or just, I mean, again, how do you do parody in this world? That could be an Onion headline. It could be a Babylon Bee, you know, article. It could be totally, like, facetious, and it would be hilarious, but they're not being facetious, at least not in that sense. And, you know, what does it really come down to? How can people be so dense? How can they believe the programming so much? How can they have drank the Kool-Aid so hard that they actually believe something as ridiculous as that without any sense of irony? It really comes down to how much we are connected, you know, to our ancestral memory and to the wisdom of our fathers and the wisdom of our fathers' fathers, so to speak. And, you know, eventually going all the way back, you get to the formative stories, you get to the origin stories, right? You get to the Bible, you get to the Bhagavad Gita, right? You get to the Torah, you get, I mean, I guess the Torah is a part of the Bible, but I guess the Torah includes other scriptures in Judaism, right? I don't think it's just the Old Testament, right? There's, you know, what is it, the 64 tenets of Taoism, and, you know, there were the Buddha and everything. We go back to these origin stories, and there's, you know, none of the origin stories really ever claim at any point that we just kind of gradually came up, you know, from apes and we just lost all our body hair and walked upright. Like, all of the origin stories universally reference a different age, a golden age, a time when God was present in the sky, and basically there was just a different world entirely. Of course, we have the evidence of the dinosaurs, which we, you know, supposed to be millions of years old, but even no matter how old they are, if we are taking them to be genuine, which I would say there's enough dinosaur bones on the planet to believe that they're genuine. Again, I am not a fundamentalist Christian. If you're looking to come to this channel and find fundamentalist Christian worldview, you're going to leave unsatisfied, because there's plenty of that bullshit in the world already, of people who think the Bible is a literal text and believe that its English translation is an honest, you know, representation of the ancient Greek, which it was written in. Not Hebrew, ancient Greek. And it's just, if I felt like this message that I am giving, it was accurately represented in some other part of the internet, if somebody else was doing like the job so I didn't have to, then I would stop making videos, right? I would just, you know, be a promoter of that channel. But the fact is, the reason we created this channel, Space Panther and I, was because we did not feel that that was being represented. We feel that the forms of Christianity today are incomplete. And a part of that is their demonization of all things of the natural world. But again, who created the plants? Who created the natural world? Who is the author of this creation? It is the Creator, right? So I don't understand how anyone can claim to be a Christian and believe in God and think that the devil made this or that plant, or, you know, basically it's our responsibility to prevent mankind from accessing nature because that is sinful. I don't believe it. I don't think that anything has any intrinsic morality. I think everything is given morality by the user, right? at least in the physical sense, right? There's definable universal evil on the etheric sense, right? In the metaphysical sense, in the religious and spiritual sense, that does exist, but that's not a physical thing that exists beyond physics, right? Again, it is metaphysics. Again, metaphysics is not oppositional to religion or Christianity. It is like the girders and substructure within the building, right? You might say oh, wow, isn't that a beautiful building? It's so beautiful. And I ask, oh, that's great. How is it made? What holds it up? And you say, well, look, it's a beautiful building. It's a beautiful building. Don't you see the outside? And I'm like, yes, but what is holding it up? How is it built? And if you keep repeating to me that it's a beautiful building and about looking at the surface structure, then I just have to stop that conversation at a certain point, because I realize I'm talking to a duck, right? Quack, 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 quack. And I'm not looking to talk to ducks. I'm looking to talk to humans who can have rational conversations and can actually process their fundamental axioms and positions, right? Because if you can't do that, then again, there's a reason that the left and the communists and all this degeneracy has overtaken society. It's because your Christianity has failed, sir. It has failed. You have absolutely failed in the charge to hold back the forces of Satan. You have lost the war in a big sense. I mean, thank God, literally, that there are better philosophies and the truth comes through in the end, as Jesus said. But we have to examine every single part of what we've been told. That includes from the media and the government, and it also includes religion. Because if you don't think that religion has been compromised, then you don't know anything about the history of the church nor its formative leaders, right? From Paul onward, right? There has always been a twisting of Jesus' message, and it's the universal, again, archetype that the true alpha, right, will always have the true, omega, right, seeking to, terminate the cycle and, make that sacrifice a tragic sacrifice, and attack and betray and sabotage the alpha. And again, it's that drama that we know of as the physical universe, and it's because we tasted of the tree of knowledge, in the sense that we made ourselves intelligent. Who knows? If you listen to Terence McKenna, it's because humans started taking magic mushrooms, right? If you listen to the alien conspiracy theorist people, it was an alien, fucked a monkey and out came a human, right? And we don't really know. All we have are the origin stories, these ancient scriptures and texts. So, I personally interpret many of them in more of kind of an open-minded allegorical sense. I don't think that, because the words that we have today do not translate directly to the words they had back then. And when we read the translation, we read it with our own, prejudices and connotations of the words. And again, the value of those terms. The mathematical value of those terms. But, again, if I would say I have one true strength that is in language, and to perceive behind the veil of what, we use as language in this world, and it is my lifetime goal to learn every single language on the planet. Whether or not I'll succeed, I guess we will see. Check back in about 85 years. But, it's a very, very interesting story when you look back at these stories, and you look at the history, just, even setting aside the spiritual, and look at the history. Study where your people came from, right? Just where all people came from. It's fascinating to study ancient China. It's fascinating to study, what we know of the development of Africa and Europe and South America, right? The Maya and the Aztecs, fascinating cultures, right? And all the way up to the Nords and the High North and Hyperborea, and, we get into the stories of Atlantis. I mean, that's not exactly in the mainstream physical sense, but, it is a part of history, right? Plato talked about Atlantis and Hyperborea. Many of the ancient philosophers knew of these origins and just kind of, spoke of them in the terms that they were aware. But, ultimately, what we know from history is that this civilization is not a given. It's not this magic horn of plenty, as Elon Musk would say. He's like the socialists and these facetious people who don't perceive into the structure of things, right? It's all just basically this magic horn of plenty, and things just come out of the magic economy, right? But the economy is literally only the sum total of our actions as human beings and the capital that we have invested in the world, right? Capital in its original form is just pure electrical energy that flows throughout the universe. And we convert that into physical work, using our bodies, primarily using our mind. And as a result of coordinating that work and aligning ourselves with the objective structure of the universe ordained by the Creator. Again, what the Freemasons, people think the Freemasons are all satanic. The Freemasons are not all satanic, and there's an aspect of Freemasonry that is very valid. And the reason of that is because Freemasonry is for more or less, the bastardized incarnation of ancient druidic principles, right? And this is why they're so mysterious, because when you speak in parable, and when you speak in terms of symbolism and abstract reality that undergirds this physical reality, again, metaphysics, then, people have the ability to misinterpret things and get, all triggered by something that they perceive as satanic, right? Not all magic is satanic. There is definitely black magic and white magic and different colors of magic. It is very real. And again, I don't see any, I would say that it's not sacrilegious to know of, the principles of magic. It is sacrilegious and satanic to use, basically the darker forms of magic and make others suffer for the sake of your gain. But there is such a thing as white magic. There is such a thing as gold magic, and, resonating with the physical universe and thus changing it by becoming in a sympathetic resonance, right? Again, how the frequency can shatter the wine glass or the window is sympathetic resonance. And, again, if Christianity in its conventional form was achieving that goal of, actual resonance and guarding those sacred principles and promoting those sacred principles and creating a world that, again, we've gotten pretty far just on the forms that we have, but the reason that it isn't finishing the race, so to speak, it is because it is incomplete. And, the only people, ironically, who have had any understanding of where this ends and how this gets reconciled are some of the most apocalyptic, crazy Christians out there, right? I mean, I think that back in the 90s, David Koresh and the Branch Davidians seemed pretty wacky and out there. And now it's like, honestly, we see our entire civilization coming to this singularity point and a confrontation between the neo-Marxists and the forces of Satan against those who are standing in the kingdom of heaven, at the walls and at the turrets and ready to guard it against, basically this sort of Middle-earth, Battle of Helm's Deep type encounter. And, and again, it's not, there is obviously physical violence happening. It's out in the streets. But again, primarily there is the spiritual basis that underpins it. And again, what Tolkien was describing, Tolkien went farther in his knowledge and gnosis and memory and understanding than any of the religious scholars that I've ever heard, across from the east to the west, including all branches of Christianity, right? Because he saw into the story, the function and structure of the story, which ultimately, even if you believe the stories are literally true, the Bible is just a set of stories, okay? You shouldn't get triggered by that. You should just understand that that is what the Bible is. Whether it is true or false or allegorical or what have you, it is still just a set of stories. It is a function of language to tell a story. And if you can see into the nature of language, you can see into the nature of stories. You can see into the nature of all stories. Again, archetypes like the hero's journey, all of these, emanate from that sort of metaphysical, ontological analysis. And people, they'll kind of, we've even had some of our subscribers just kind of pushing back against this from both ends, from the atheist, side to the more religious side. And I'm not here to confirm anybody's, existing prejudices and suppositions, right? I'm here to articulate what I believe to be the genuine and accurate view of reality. And if I felt like somebody else was doing it better, then I would stop doing it, okay? So, by all means, if I love making that connection, and when people introduce me to information, again, why do you think I got this far, right? And the internet is the manifestation of that principle, again, of everything that is hidden being revealed. This is the end times, but again, it's not like, again, your fundamentalism prevents you from seeing that at the end of one world is the beginning of another. And what is the beginning of that world? And what did Jesus mean when he said that I will be with you until the end of the age? I will be with you to the end of the world. He meant that basically there's a certain point where humanity becomes Christ. Humanity imbues itself with the Christ energy, with, again, the Christos energy, which predated Christ for thousands of years, right? And there's a reason that these archetypes existed. There's a reason that there was a prophecy that was fulfilled. It's because of the pre-existing spiritual patterns. But again, Jesus was not the only Son of God. He was the first and highest Son of God who used his body and his soul as a bridge to enable humanity to go into that realm and to enter the kingdom of heaven by freeing themselves from sin and thus the vicissitudes of the cycles of time, and to live in that eternal space and to build things in this physical world that would last for thousands of years. Again, the pyramids were built by the real Christians back in the ancient times, and again, Jesus is part of bringing that back to us. What he was communicating was in perfect alignment with nearly all of the ancient wisdom in the very, very ancient sense, but it had become clouded by materiality and the Sanhedrin, and basically, the people like their political power, right? And Jesus was a Jew, and he saw into the structure of basically that religious system, and he said, this is inadequate, right? This does not work. And so I am doing the same with the forms of Christianity that have become calcified and clouded over the last 2,000 years. To say that has not occurred is to be a liar. It is to be an absolute liar to say that these are pure forms of Christianity. And to think that there was no incentive to cloud these things and to mistranslate things and to edit out certain portions, I mean, you've got to be as dumb as the leftists, honestly. You've got to believe that, basically everything, you can just substitute your own version of reality in the face of basically all logic and evidence and, empirical truth, both, physical and metaphysical. There was the greatest incentive of the world. If you enable people to live in the kingdom of heaven, what need have they for Caesar? What need have they for, basically command and control, domination structures of government, right? Again, Jesus was tempted by Satan, and Satan said, I will give you all the kingdoms of the world. What did that mean? It means Satan was in control of all the kingdoms of the world. And Jesus said, no, my kingdom is in heaven. And that is the attitude that we need to have if we are going to move forward into this age of union with Christ. And, again, people who may not even read the Bible can be participating in that because it is primal and energetic. Christ was not the originator of this phenomenon. He was the communicator. He was the bridge. And so the point is that the phenomenon was greater than Christ himself, the man. It was exactly what the allegory is telling you, that he brought God into this world. God became a man, entered the world, and sacrificed his only son to basically free the rest of the species from sin. That is what it's telling me. Again, that is perfectly metaphysical, and, basically it is entirely valid. I don't see any falsehood there in the sense of the atheist. Oh, it's just a bearded man in the sky, and you'll believe in fairy tales. Well, it's all fairy tales, my friend, when you really get down to the formative origin stories. So either realize that you're a fairy, or at least the descendants of fairies and kings and giants and who knows what, but embrace the mystery a little bit, because at a certain point, it's the actual substance of reality. And so, in returning it back to ground, right? Ground control to Major Tom. Right, it's important that even if you don't get along with your family, right, your parents, your mother, and specifically your father, you need to basically forgive them and let go, and let go and let God, as the Christians say in their kitschy little plaques on the kitchen wall, and let go and let God, let the universe, let this structure, let God just sort it out. And that is really the attitude that we need to keep in mind as we proceed in action to fight this politically and spiritually and emotionally and energetically, this attack on everything that is sacred. Because again, like Helm's Deep, if we lose this battle, then the world of men is over, my friends, and the orcs will rule the world. And again, it's not, it's in metaphysical sense of material, animals who don't believe in spirit, and serve only one master because they have no individual agency, right? That will be the new species to rule the planet. But it's the mitosis of world, and the orcs will still exist, but this world will continue to be ruled by men, right? The crownless again shall be king, and this people, the people of this planet will be able to live in a state of moral moral guard and effective union with the natural world, with creation, in a responsible, manner, to promote the generation of this species, again in alignment with those principles, and to prevent against the next inevitable cyclical wave of the forces of evil and darkness coming against it. Again, what the founders did, they knew that they weren't expecting everyone to be perfect. They knew that people would be sons of bitches, and they would lose connection with the wisdom of their fathers, and they would seek to sell their brothers and sisters out, for the sake of their own personal gain. And so it has occurred, and here we are at the very real test of the system, to see if we can use these formative documents from the Bible to the Declaration of Arbroath to the U.S. Constitution and Declaration of Independence, to all the wonderful things that have been written and spoken since those times. We will transcend this, and we will win the battle, we will win the war. But it's important to recognize that only happens when we embrace that spiritual hierarchy, at which basically God and Christ is at the top. And I don't need to believe, in fact, any of the Bible stories were literal. I do, in many sense, but I don't believe Jonah got eaten by a physical whale. I believe more in Jordan Peterson's allegorical interpretation of these stories, or something like that, more than I believe most of the Bible as a literal book, especially given the fact that it has been translated. A game of telephone has been played for thousands of years through multiple languages, and I'm supposed to take it all as a literal book? I'm sorry, my friend, it's not going to happen. But anyway, that's my, video today. I guess I'll just finish with, again, forgive your parents and find connection with the creator of the universe. Merge yourself with the natural world, but don't get lost in it, and understand that it all came from somewhere. We all came from somewhere. And, it's remember the wisdom that your grandparents taught you. Remember the wisdom that your parents taught you, at least the part that was good. I'll take all the good and I'll transcend the things that I felt were inadequate. My father did a good job, but I will do an even better job, with no disrespect. Basically, it's only just building and standing on ever higher shoulders with each generation. And it's important to recognize that if we lose that, if we encourage single-parent households and we let the degeneration of the family continue, then we will lose all memory, and we will have completed the transition into the brave new world, 1984, just amnesiac state of the species, in which people don't remember anything. Knowledge has been erased. Newspeak replaces actual language with mathematical fundamental value, and it'll just be, again, 2 + 2 = 5 because the party says so, and you must love Big Brother. This is really what we're facing. We are absolutely, the 2020 will decide many things, and the presidential election is just a symptom of it, not a primary cause. But again, it's going to be a fundamentally different world, one way or the other. There has never been a more consequential choice to face the people of America and to face the people of the world in total. Because, and here in California, so it appears, and as they say, as goes California, so goes the USA, and as goes the USA, so goes the rest of the world. So this is the setting in which I choose to fight. This is the land in which I choose to claim. It's where I am born, and when I have concluded my conquest of this land, then I will be able to, expand beyond and, find refuge in many parts of the planet, again, with a flying castle called the Rose Garden. And, again, the wisdom of our fathers, from knowing how to fix a car to knowing just how to be a man in terms of your attitude and your sense of responsibility, and, to learning how to use a firearm, knowing the etiquette of using a firearm. Don't be like, what was his name, the guy down in St. Louis, right, the lawyer family that were just waving their guns around. Again, they were right to, bear arms, and when a mob was at their lawn, but I mean, you just showed to the world basically how, terrible trigger discipline and firearms etiquette that most Americans have. It is not enough to own a gun. You must train, you must become proficient, you must become responsible. Even if we're not raising an army, but we have to be the army of Christ. We have to be ready and willing to fight and defend for defend what is sacred and what is ours, and our entire family and our children's children will depend on it. And so, that's my video today. Remember the wisdom of your fathers and your mothers, but again, the wisdom of the mothers right now is not really wisdom at all. It's completely disconnected from any sort of ancestral wisdom, and it's just a bunch of baloney. But there is gold within the haystack. There are gems within the poison. And if we can be strong enough to sort them out, then we can find them, integrate them, and become, more powerful as a result. And again, in alignment with the Creator and fulfilling the prophecy of this age. And that's my video today. Hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you next time. Cheers.